Welcome to Curiosity Unleashed with Richard Morden. We, in our bi-weekly, every now and then time sweep conversations as to, yeah, the world, I suppose. The world is a crazier place this week, I feel, than it was last week or the week before. Um, you down in Mexico, Richard, yeah. How are you doing down there?
We're doing fine. Like I said, there was some stuff go on in the area we currently live in. We happened to be away at the time,
Hmm.
so we weren't in the energy of it at all. We're in another city visiting some friends, but from there was an incident, there was some stuff, but again, what really happened and what the media says is quite a bit of difference. And I won't go
Yeah.
into details or try and put anybody down. It just, there was some things, but the people though. After we're reaching out to each other, we're walking around asking if their friends are okay, who need what, who needs support.
Yeah.
This is a cultural society that's very family orientated, like many.
Hmm.
And if you ask for help, there's help.
Yeah.
And for many times in these situations where people have lost something, there's fundraisers. There's all kinds of ways people raise money here to help people. One gentleman lost his truck
Mm.
due to an incident, and he was a delivers a lot of fruit and vegetables to people. So some people have gathered together, done some fundraising, and found him another vehicle because I mean this is how he makes his living, and
Hmm.
this is community.
Yeah.
So what I see here again, no one is ignored. If you knock on somebody's door and they say, "Can I borrow something here?" they will give it to you.
Plus,
Plus,
if you
they,
ask for sugar, they might give you some tea or coffee as well. That
yeah, yeah.
what else do you need instead of, you know, hiding and looking away f or looking at each other's cup and seeing whether you have enough instead of whether you have more than I do. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah, I imagine, because I imagine that the community aspect there is similar to where I come from, where
Mhm.
it's more of a I call it tribe more because it feels to me more aligned with the the differences instead of the sameness. For me, community feels very much white picket fence with a little pull that you take in the at the entrance just to make sure everybody's on the same. you know. But with the tribe, there's the crazy, moon lady that lives by the river, and the guy whose
Mhm.
truck breaks down, and the aspect of competition is also viewed differently. I think, it's like if the guy can't deliver his vegetables, then that means my neighbor can't eat vegetables, and the
Mhm.
farmer can't grow more vegetables. So it affects the whole ecosystem of the space that you live in, and the relationships that you have within that space.
Like you said, and there is such what I see accountability here.
Mm,
That when things go on, you realize that you're accountable to your family, you're accountable to the community,
mm,
and in a way, so there is your actions and your behavior are aware, and it gives you that sense of responsibility. It's
yeah.
not just about your feelings, but when you're feeling down, and I've seen this, I've seen so many homeless people here, but they're never left alone. Someone brings them some food, someone
Mm.
acknowledges them. I see people stopping and talk to them, and so you're not invisible.
That's it, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
exactly that. People are seen,
Mhm.
where in, I don't know what to call it, Western world, whatever, G7 type spaces. It is there's an element of just don't get involved, because if you get involved, then
Yeah.
it becomes your problem. But it is our problem. It is all of our problem, as to how we move forward. We're seeing it here now. Well, not so far from us, but how people are learning, I think, even leaders of these G7 countries are starting to go, hang on a minute. If I do this, then I put my people at risk. So I'm saying no on this one, and this is an option. I think we've spoken about this before as well in time sweeps, is the power of that no in a part of looking after what's important in this moment, whether it's my family or my community or whatever it is, but to emotionally look after ourselves within our spaces, if that makes sense.
Well, I've seen a lot of times with, and I want to be careful how I say this, a lot of decision making in these higher circles. I won't go
Hmm.
into what the words are. They don't live with their decisions.
Hmm.
They're making policies, doing things, and again, and has huge impact out there, but they're not living that. When you have this tribal clan value, and it's put out there, well, it's a lower values.
Hmm.
I'm really looking at that whole system as a bit of a new light because when I see this, what do you call it, tribe plan, when I see the point that people here make decisions and this decision is going to impact my family, my neighbors, and
Hmm.
it brings in accountability. It brings in a whole bigger piece of awareness of your choices, your awareness, your actions, and groupthink of how to make this better.
Yeah.
So we're not making a decision and you're off, it's affecting people and you're living a completely different life than them.
Hmm.
So it's important to realize, these aren't lower values in the same of system. These are, I see that there's incredible strength in these communities that I think the systems have so much tried to isolate people into their own silos. And I think in G7 countries, we have been very isolated into this. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Not realizing your neighbor is suffering or somebody else is suffering. It's not about trying to save the world or save everybody around you, but
Mhm.
what little thing can you do
Yeah.
that is of value to someone else, even an acknowledgement?
Mm.
Or like maybe sometimes like my senior neighbors when I lived back in Ontario, I cut my senior neighbor's lawn for years.
Yeah.
He was blowing my driveway out for years. So when he got older, like and couldn't do it, I cut his grass. I blew his driveway out. It was time for my to, I was so honored and thankful for what he gave. I gave back to him and I helped another neighbor, right? It's just what you do.
Yeah. 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 Well, and it's part of you. It's not separate to you. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I think that's something that the narrative has been, you know, very individualistic, very kind of, I need to get to the top, so that I can prove myself or feel validated within that. But I think we're being pulled back very quickly, and maybe this is one of the lessons that questionable leadership brings, as to watching these decisions being made, which impacts a lot more than just their communities, that impacts like countries, a worldwide drain on emotional energy, on yeah, I don't know. There's been a big shift, as I think we can all agree over the past for a while now, but I think very definitely over the past week or two, as to the stories and the narratives that we've accepted as the truth. And the fact that we can also kind of turn around and say, I don't agree. I do not give consent. This is not in my name, or this is not part of who I am or want to be. Yeah. And to then sit with that emotional drain of knowing that there are people suffering who we can't assist or who we can't check in with and make sure that they're okay.
Well, and stepping out of the consensus thinking, just if I just agree
Mm,
with everybody else, I'll be okay. They'll leave me alone.
yeah,
And I think that is the farthest thing from the truth. The more you consent, the more that you will lose everything.
yeah,
Because the like you said, you can't agree your way out of tyranny.
no, no,
You're gonna be swept away, taken away, whatever, by or controlled like mice because of what it is. Tyranny will do what it's going to do until people step up and start saying, I do not agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't need to be like you to be part of you,
Mhm.
to bridge this divisive narrative of uh, everybody must be like me for me to have empathy or to see them, to have, for them to be visible in their suffering or in their injustice that's happening to them. Because I'm sorry to say, but war has never fixed anything or been about what it's supposed to be, there's always either a money trail or a resources or a something else that has got nothing to do with the justiceness or the justness in saving someone else. There's no one who's being saved through any war, according to me. Hate it.
One of I can't remember his name, famous military leaders realized the wars he fought were for the corporations, not for the countries.
Yeah.
Because wherever they did, the corporations came behind him and set up business. So he realized he was just a front for them. So I mean, it's the point of we've been given all these things of who we should be and how we should be, but we have to look at ourselves as individuals, but also have difference of opinion. We were some friends in the weekend, and we have very different opinions on medical aspects of our life, but but that's what we agreed on. We said, yeah, we love this because
Yeah.
we're allowed to have different points of view and have
Yeah.
discussions, say, okay, that's fine, but and accept each other for who we are as people,
Yeah.
as gracious and kind and open.
Yeah.
And I raise my children to have their own opinions. We didn't agree on stuff. And I said, okay, because that's how I raised them to be, to decide for themselves, their own values,
Yep,
and,
exactly, exactly. And
you know,
and they love to remind me of this too.
yeah, yeah,
When there is a difference in
yeah.
opinion or something, it's like, do you want me to always agree with you? Because that's not who I am. So it does bite back
But
in a good way.
but it gives you a point of discernment and not just consensus thinking of and shutting your brain off to look at the next TV screen. It's like
Mm,
it's learning to look and read beyond something, looking at an article. And the biggest gift I could say I was given, when you look at an article and read it, what's it not saying?
yeah.
What do you know about the story that's being told that's not being told?
Hmm.
And for all the stuff that happened here recently, like what is it? What are you not hearing?
Yeah. Or
You know,
where is it coming from?
yeah,
What do they get to gain through this narrative?
yeah.
And our theme this month in the Wisdom Seekers is story and play. And we live in a time where we live in a time we've never lived in a time where we've had so much access to information. Um,
And been so dumb.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But we can also, this also brings that element of what's the word that you used earlier? Accountability.
Mhm.
you know to be ignorant is now become a choice. You can follow the one narrative if you want to, but
Yeah.
if you take your eye flaps off, or you stop with this colonial idea of you just don't get involved, just put your head down and pretend like you don't see it, then you can see that these things has been building up for 150 years, if not longer. Um, weaponizing the enemy is one way to create um, dysfunction or disruption within the space where you can then go in and take resources. I mean, you know what I mean? There's enough freedom of information. There's enough of that if we step away from the narrative that we're being fed through the normal channels. If we switch the TV off and we start choosing where we get our information from and then checking that, we can build a new story, a new narrative, which is sometimes based on a bit more than just what we are being told.
Well, and I mean, two things here, because where we have been polarized is everybody has like, I'm right.
Yeah.
We're in this declarative state that I watched this, therefore I believe this, therefore I'm right.
Hmm.
And I had a gentleman, a longtime mentor, he's passed away now some years back, but he was the one who got, said when you're reading something, look at what it's not saying, make comparative studies, like read,
Yeah.
because he's an incredible intelligent man. And then he said, even in his mid 80s, he said, I've been reading this, and I'm slowly changing my opinion on something because I'm getting other points of view of relative what he felt from accurate from sources. So he wasn't locked into his points of view. He was still flexible, still learning as he was saying stuff, because he said he would go to authors. He didn't necessarily like the authors, but he said if they had a background that had integrity in what they were, or knowledge of what they were talking about. So I was still willing to look at their material. And he was a
Yeah.
huge history buff. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like, I don't like these guys because they different. I mean, and here we've been decided, well, we don't, this author is this political view, this political view. And
It's a book.
you,
Yeah.
you can't shut the door of their political affiliation or their religious affiliation. They can still have some very intelligent points of view. I'm sitting in coffee shops with people here from Mexico, from all over the world,
Yeah.
and having incredible discussions with people like world travelers and amazing points. I'm not interested in a political point of view. I'm interested in their experiences. Like, where have you been?
Yeah.
One guy just met yesterday, he's been traveling for 50 years. He's been coming here for 50 years. He's been to 45 countries. And
Nice.
I'm like, oh my God, where have you been? What's your favorite countries? I didn't ask him his political view or his religious view.
No, no, but he's most likely got a much more open perspective
Yeah,
of his own views because
yeah,
he has tested them in different spaces and places,
yeah.
which does make a difference, instead of someone, yeah.
Who has stayed in their same, and I'm not putting down, I've seen it, who has stayed in their same neighborhood for generations and never left.
Hmm.
Your point of view is going to be that neighborhood. That's the way it
Yeah.
is. But I mean, if you're declaring yourself and yet you've never went to the next block or never traveled anywhere, I question your validity.
Yeah,
And
well,
you're probably not listening to this podcast, so I don't really worry.
yeah. Well, this is wisdom though, isn't it? Wisdom doesn't
Yeah.
come with knowledge. You can read all the books, but if you haven't experienced um, people, because we change, our energy changes. We
Oh,
change within our dialogues in this space. I'm now a different person than I was when we came on this call because we've already discussed, your view and my view, and that in essence changes our individual views as to now incorporating some of each other's which if you don't experience or if you don't speak to people that are different, then you never get to test that. You never get to experience the reality of triggering, that trigger of ooh, why did I think that? Or what brought that up? How do I host my own reaction to something you've said that's got nothing to do with what you've said, but it's got something to do with a maybe a belief that I hold that I didn't know I held or whatever it is. But if we don't talk, then we'd never have those things. And trigger is a silly word because it's been used so yeah, wildly,
Yeah.
as if it's someone else's fault if you get triggered. It's not. It's all you.
Interesting. One of the gentlemen comes to my listening circle. He lives in Europe. I won't say his name. He's a wonderful, intelligent man.
Mm,
Does a lot of training. He spent some time driving a tour bus in, I think, the Netherlands, and he said they wanted him to work in the office. He's now East know, but he said he drove the tour bus, I think, for a number of years because he was dealing with groups of people from Germany, Sweden, a lot of different countries. I can't remember the other countries, but he said when you're navigating conversation with those people, and he speaks all these languages. He said he wanted to learn how to navigate and negotiate with these people because if you spent too much time speaking one language, the other people, why aren't you speaking our language? And then these people were having it. He had to keep the consensus going on the bus. He said it was incredible skills that he takes into his coaching. Well, he learned so much dealing with these people where
mm.
he said if he spoke too much language, one of the other people, and I won't go into the nationalities, would come up and say, well, why you've been speaking their language for 6 minutes? You only spoke four for ours. What's the problem here? So so learning to facilitate was huge. No wonder he facilitates in large groups. What a masterful skill
Yeah.
because these people just to have this negotiation, and I will say this honestly, when I see people who travel and children who travel, I say they have some of the highest emotional intelligence I could ever see,
Mm,
witness. Their ability for adjustment, flexibility, adaptability, resourcefulness is off the charts.
yeah.
And I'm so admirable of these people and these families to navigate these situations and do things. My wife and we've had bus canceled, we have been out of the Airbnb, and we just look around and says, okay, what else is
Yeah.
possible? There's
Yeah.
no, let's, what's our resources here? Who do you know? Who can we call?
Yeah.
And this is life in these situations. These are your four stages of competence, So it's coming out of our bubble. Like you said, when you learn something, all it is information.
Yeah.
When you apply it, if it, becomes some knowledge. When you have experience, and have the trials, then you have some wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now, a lot of people are taking a piece of information and walking around like it's a shield. Like I heard this, therefore it is I'm declaring it as my truth. That's your choice, but
Yeah, but
I'm
let's just think
questioning
about this for a minute. I mean, it's sometimes the information is a bit questionable.
it. Well,
Where
huge,
is it coming
huge,
from? Yeah,
huge. Yeah.
yeah, because systems thrive on control. And
Mm.
at the moment, there's a lot of systems falling apart, meaning that they need more control, So I think this is also a sign of our times as to, yeah, being aware of, what is the outcome? Where would this information take me, if I had to believe it? Is it going to put me in a space of divisiveness? All people that have blue eyes are bad. Is this really something I wanted to believe? Um, or could I maybe move through this? I think, yeah, this aspect is quite big around, the world that I'm in, yeah, in the UK, this right wing, and then people don't even know what these things are they're being told are the scary things, they don't even know what it means, because it's much easier to just do what you've always done and put your eye flaps on and don't get involved.
And give your power away to someone. I
Mm.
won't put titles on. Give your power away to someone. Let me go to my, this person because they're my authority and or my guru. And it's I would say question everything. Question everything. So
Thank you. May we all take our own authority back in decisions and, yeah, giving ourselves
yeah,
permission. We have it already. Thank you, Richard.
you're welcome. Yeah, that was much needed.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.